Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable. IIM Amritsar presents Pariprekshya'20, the annual finance and marketing conclave.
This is one of those years which is not a normal year. It's one of those years where we have had this disruption. What might have started as a vision 2020 has sort of become a nightmare 2020 for us, where we don't know, right, when this uncertainty is going to end. Why many people may really look at this as a challenge or threat, I also would like to look at this as an opportunity. How are the venture capitalists doing? Which are the industries or sectors that are growing? Which are the industries or sectors that have had innovation, right? Where people like the esteemed dignitaries that are with us today have been, are investing their money. One thing that I can proudly say is that for the IIM Amritsar community, students, faculty, staff, it has not broken our spirit. I can proudly say that, the first conclave was organized by the students. Actually, the second year students started the class on August 3rd and with August 8th or 9th in both the first year students and second year students together were able to pull this off. And then within the next 6 weeks or 7 weeks, we have our second conclave that has also been successfully organized. Now, I would like to thank all the panelists who have agreed to be part of this process of providing the holistic education to our students, and request them to enlighten our students and faculty in terms of their real-life world experience and share them with us. Thank you very much.
Welcome everyone, the panelists, the faculty, the students of IIM Amritsar to this panel discussion on venture capital. What are some of the key trends that remain relatively constant in the early stage funding cycle?
Startup founders want to make tons of money. Then number two, tons of ideas. You talk about anything and everything, there are ideas galore. Just to give Umesh, and this is not a commercial for 100x, where I'm a partner, we got 4,000 applications. We went through 800 pitch decks, finally invested in 9. So see the funnel, so see the number of ideas which came to us. And this was for class 2 where we invested in 9 companies. Class 1 where we invested in 20, we got some 2,000 applications. So there's no shortage of ideas. Third and more interesting trend is everything is now, of course, people used to talk constantly, everything is technology. Coding is the new English. If one of the founders is not, co-founders is not with a tech background, the startup finds it difficult to pivot, to figure new models. So technology's importance, not just from a broad perspective of strategy and all, really, really narrow perspective also is become very, very critical. And fourth now, particularly post-COVID, the trend is of evergreen business. No one could have predicted COVID, and hopefully we'll never see it again in our entire lifetime. But more or less a business model which is evergreen. Now, what are the trends from investors like us, early stage? Again, we want to make a lot of money. But yes, we like to nurture ideas. We like to give them shape, and we hope to see them getting the next round of funding.
With a question to Mitesh. The question is, after the WeWork fiasco amid the coronavirus crisis, how do you see the funding market shaping up?
Funding actually was never a problem, barring that 1 month from, or 1.5 months from 15th or 16th of March, when probably all of us started sitting at home and working from home, and post that Janta curfew. Till third week of April and all, I think people are trying to figure out that what's best for them and should they preserve cash or deploy. After that, there has been a lot of demand for good startups and good funding opportunities. So funding has never been a problem for the businesses who deserve them. And that's what brings to me to the point that I want to make here, Umesh, is that for the students who are there on this call, never chase funding. Chase, making a good sustainable business model. Funding will follow by itself. There is enough capital and I can speak on behalf of everybody on this panel. I take the liberty of doing so. There is enough capital flowing in the market. If you guys create a great business model, which is not a Me Too model and which is not created to take money for the investors or something that the investors would like. Decide what's the problem to be solved, decide which is the best way to solve it, decide where unit economics will work and go for it. Great founders, great businesses, great valuation. That's all we need.
This question is about deal evaluation. Okay. So what are some qualitative factors around a startup that a VC looks to evaluate?
I look at the passion in the team, passion in what they do, whatever they like to do. Actually, it could be, they may be good in certain things, they are very hands-on with certain things, or they have creative ideas. It could be new technology idea. They go well beyond what has been asked. The second thing is perseverance and strong will. One thing I found with all the successful entrepreneurs, when I say successful, that's not necessarily they financially successful. Many times the companies go south. I don't consider that to be a failure because they come back and again they start another company. When I say successful entrepreneur, they would have created something. For market reasons, it may not have taken off, but they have perseverance. Even ups and downs, they really sail through the company. That is very, very important. Third thing I look at is the complementary skill set. So sometimes we back companies with single founders, but we like to have 2, 3 founders who complement each other. So one thing we ask them, are they friends in college? Okay, fine. But have they worked together? Because when you work together, many issues come. How do they sort it out? If they have worked in a company 4 or 5 years, that makes a lot of difference. So we look for complementary skill set. Even within the founder team, one could be a leader. The other could be somebody who is not visible, but could be very good in technical. The other one may like operation. The other one may like marketing. So we like for a good complementary skill set actually.
Thanks a lot, Chinnu. That was really an excellent reply. So over to Sanjay. What would you like to pick up?
So for us, when we are evaluating an idea, market has to be very large. We believe that, and we have, some of the numbers as starting points that, if you're evaluating a particular segment, what is the market size? Is it attractive enough? When we evaluate a market, the second thing is the market growing? Because what we've realized that, initially, when it's a pre-series A, series B company, on a smaller base, they've been able to, post significant amount of growth rates. But then, somewhere in their life cycle, they become stagnated. And this is where, all the trouble begins. So market has to be growing. And third, and again, a very important point is, apart from a large market, what is the profit pool, right? Because most of us get influenced by, very large market. But at the end of the day, the startup, when they're pitching an idea, if the profit pool is not enough, that's a problem. The fourth one, I would say, is barriers to entry. So when we are evaluating a startup, is their business model, easy to copy, right? Are they solving any unique market problem, or they are like middle of the run? So what is the play which is to be had, which will generate a long-term value? That is something which we bring into our market assessment.
I will request now Amitabh to pick up any parameter. And
if the business doesn't have a logic that will sustain it, Ninad has some fabulous questions. People who say I have no competition. Well, if your market is so immaterial, also insignificant, that on a planet of 7 billion people, nobody else is looking at it, shut it down. You're in the wrong business. So have competition, please know what they are. And as he said, can you differentiate? If you are already the finished product, your company has zero chances. All of these are fairly esoteric. Everything else can be taught. You can learn your market. I don't care if you've never operated in that market for even one day. I have entered market myself, which I've never operated. I'm willing to get my knees skinned, my knuckles bloody, learning that. But do you have that? Are you willing to go out there and figure out how something works rather than opening up a textbook? if you don't have the spirit of adventure. I ask people, what do you read? People who tell me that they read only management books, I'm sorry, you don't have an imagination. People who tell me I read fantasy, I say, all right, let's sit down, let's have a cup of coffee. Are you challenging the world as it has been taught? Are you looking at what is beyond the bend? Are you imagining what could be? If you're doing none of these, you're building a legacy business. Do it.
Thank you so much for sharing your life's experience.
IIM Amritsar presents Pariprekshya'20, the annual finance and marketing conclave.
It's indeed a pleasure to be sitting with all of you this evening, and a warm welcome to everybody who's joined us. Right, I feel very fortunate that I get to moderate a panel with people from such diverse backgrounds. The topic for the day is actually marketing in the new normal. So, what is it that marketing actually gets from this whole new normal is what we're going to discuss about. What it means to be in their particular sector, and how has the pandemic actually affected each of them, and what they've done. So just initial thoughts, and then we'll go deeper into the subject. Lovedeep, if you could tell us what you think.
We had a very unique situation. Our March versus April sales, our demand went up by about 10x when the pandemic happened. And on the contrary, our supply went down by 10x. So we were one of the unique situation where we no more were bothered about the sales. We were bothered about how do we supply to our store and make sure the business continues and the store continues. And suddenly the role of marketing got twisted from a demand generation function to a service function, right? And one of the biggest challenge for me and my team was to kind of bring the frequent weekly changes on consumer behavior to the organization, which helps them to relook at their strategy on each geography, how the Bangalore would react, how the Punjab would react, how the Telangana would react. So our job was not to create demand. Our job is completely turned into becoming a service function, where our biggest and most important task was to bring the consumer insights into the larger part of the organization, which helps them to translate and kind of service and position themselves slightly better than the rest of the competition. So our delivery business, for example, which is when you call to order, went up by 500 times, and there is no wherewithal for whatever infrastructure that you can put up, you can't manage that demand, right? So half of the organization which was not in operation and sale were, by the way, doing the sales, including myself. We're doing the supply chain part of fulfilling this demand.
How do you approach media planning in these times? Now, the reality is, as marketing students or as people involved in this particular business, there is never a precedent that has been there in the past to actually guide us through how you approach media planning. So how would you look at it, given that you are in a business that's front-facing to the customer?
So there's no question about ignoring the importance of digital as a medium, which is anyways increasing, and it will continue to grow. So we have close to around 500 to 600 million monthly active users of internet. And that is what we have to cater to, because ultimately consumer will be going over there. But we also have to look at the core. To give you an idea, every single day, there are 600 million people who watch TV. So all said and done, the core or the base still lies with these mass media channels. Yes, radio took a hit during this pandemic. Outdoor definitely took a hit in this pandemic, and they are recovering right now. Print had an initial setback because of its untouchability. It is recovering right now. Print is one of the most effective medium for local area marketing, but TV continues to rule. To give you one more data, pre-pandemic, 3 hours of 40 minutes. 3 hours 40 minutes was the average viewing hours for one viewer, which has gone up to 4 hours and 20 minutes. There's a tremendous increase. Also, in certain cases, I'm saying that yes, there are certain brands and categories for which digital will play a more important role. So there are certain brands that I handle, which are quite youth focused, and their consumers are moving away from TV to digital. So there are what we call as cord cutters. These people are moving completely. They just cut their cord and they're not watching TV. They are moving to digital only. And that is why there are close to 250 million people who are watching OTT. And that is where the future is going to be. So there's no doubt about that. But we also have to consider the housewife, which forms one of the, she is the decision maker for the grocery list that is being prepared at home. And it is taking some more time before consumer of that demographic is more inclined towards the digital medium. So we maintain a healthy mix. I'm not telling that we are not investing. I'm only saying that both are important. One is more important right now because of its size. The other is more important because of its growth. And that is how we craft our offering.
So my next question is specifically to Harry, right? Because the B2B side, just on the FMCG side, we spoke about media planning and stuff like that. For you, channel takes a completely different direction, right? So in these times, how have you managed working virtually as far as your outreach channels go, or how do you see changes on the client side of things?
We started setting up webinars on our own, and we have been doing about 8-9 webinars during the pandemic period, and each one we are getting about 200 odd people attending, about 400 people registering, etc. So each of these then become conversations which we follow. But when you set up an activity, primarily before the pandemic, the marketing team would typically be focusing on the experience during the event, okay, and leave the outreach part of it, bringing in the audience, to attend these kind of events, would be either with an external partner or with the meeting organizers themselves. Now we had to also bring in that element as well. So which is where we really started looking at multi-channel marketing and trying to almost move that into an omni-channel kind of a world. So essentially, when you do a webinar, for example, where are you getting most of your returns from? Is it through your email automation platforms, through which you send it out to 10,000, 15,000 people in your database? Is it out of paid advertisements on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Google display networks? Is it out of organic media? Again, the posts which you put up in LinkedIn or Twitter. And so essentially you end up with about 7 or 8 different channels, okay? And we kind of, over this period of time, we built up an attribution system which helped us to really monitor what is the returns that you're getting out of each one of these channels. By building up UTM codes, we were in a position to track which channel is giving you the maximum number of people and how many of them are essentially ending up converting, and tracking that all back into Salesforce, which is our CRM tool. We were finally able to figure out how many of that resulted in sales conversations and finally how many of them resulted in an RFP or a win.
Research shows that at this point of time, consumers actually value a lot of empathetic messaging as opposed to, pushing their product down the throat, right? And again, there is this whole hierarchy of, do you put your employees first when it comes to marketing? Because employee marketing is huge. Or do you put your stakeholders first or the consumers? How do you think companies should approach that?
Yeah, I would say that we prioritize one over the other. That will start another controversy. So, but this is extremely important that we take care of the stakeholders as well as we take care of the employees. And this pandemic has actually shown us that what is the importance of this particular thing. So we feel that if you show that there's a bigger cause than to just make profit, the customer values it more than just what you have serviced the customer for. So if they sees the company doing much bigger, say a national cause or a bigger social cause or a bigger noble purpose is there, I think that helps in the brand value of the company. So today, like safety and health and that the kind of help you can render to the society. I mean, give back to the society what the society has given you. It's not just CSR. Do voluntarily on your own. And the employees of the company can do that on their own, and the company as a whole can do on their own. Like migrant workers, we had seen. So if you could just help the migrant workers on the way, give them food packets, and see that they come back. Don't hold on to their salaries. Don't cut their salaries. Pay them full because of the kind of lives they're living. So those kind of messages are actually much bigger. So I think that helps in building the brand, as well as ultimately it will sustain your operations, it will sustain your sales and your marketing. So I think that's a very valid point. And similarly, take care of the employees as well. Keep them motivated, keep them engaged.
Thank you so much. That brings us to the session end.
I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to the corporate partners who have always supported IIM Amritsar through their participation in various initiatives, including conclaves, live projects, summer internships, and final placements. We will soon be starting our placement activities for this year. We hope our association gets stronger when our enterprising and talented students join your esteemed organizations. Under the visionary leadership of our director, Professor Nagarajan Ramurthy, IIM Amritsar has taken a stride into providing upskilling opportunities to the working professionals. We have successfully started our first long-duration executive program in data analytics for senior professionals of one of the leading PSUs. The program aims to establish a connection between data and decision-making for the oil and gas industry, which is undergoing massive digital transformation. We would soon be offering a leadership development program for another prominent PSU that focuses on dealing with the opportunities and challenges in the next normal. The Institute will be starting an executive MBA program for working professionals from next year. The program will be delivered in a hybrid mode where majority of classes would be conducted through video conferencing over weekends.
IIM Amritsar presents Pariprekshya'20, the annual finance and marketing conclave. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.